Welcome to the Township of Bedminster. It's our regular Township Committee meeting for October 21, 2019. It is now 7:07 and we have a quorum. Committeewoman Santucci sent her note that she will be late. She does intend on showing up later tonight, but we have a full quorum. Well, we have a quorum, so we are ready to proceed. Ms. Sullivan, may we have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, sir. A quick notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News in Somerville and to the Burnsville News in Whippany, also to all subscribers, and then posted at the Municipal Building as of January 7th, 2019.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has everyone had the chance to run through the minutes? I saw that there were some comments that were provided to Judy earlier, and so with those revisions, are we ready to go, or are there more changes?
Committeewoman Mareski had a comment. I couldn't find where your correction was.
It is on, unless the word was right, be it resolved, permit reports, ordinances. Is it one of the, or resolutions? Hang on. Oh. Okay, resolution 2019-109. The second, whereas, proactive mitigation of known hazards.
In the actual resolution,
Yeah.
not in the minutes.
Oh, no, it's in the resolution.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. This came straight from the county, so.
Oh, better. So maybe the word.
Oh, mitigation of known hazards. I see. Okay. Yep. All right.
Okay, that's for Resolution 109, which is
Right,
forthcoming.
and Mr. Hickey had some other comments that have been corrected and a new.
Corrected in the minutes, right?
Correct.
Okay, understood.
Move to approve the minutes as modified and circulated.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Permits and raffles, we have an A and a C. Are we missing a B?
Yeah, I don't know. I was typing fast, sorry.
Well, let's go with A. Notification of special permit to conduct steeplechase race meeting on property partially located in Bedminster Township on October 17, 2020.
So this is very early. I got this last week, and they're asking that we, which is normally the process, they do send us a request for the steeplechase races next year.
And this is a request from the Racing Association?
Yes, and if we have any concerns or don't want to approve the permit at this time, we have to do so by resolution within 30 days.
Right, so that was a copy of the letter that came from New Jersey, I want to say, is it the Racing Association?
Yeah, the race.
Okay.
I have it here from the Office of the Attorney General, Department of Law and Public Safety, Division of New Jersey Racing Commission.
That's right, the Racing Commission.
Right.
And that's because the Moreland Farms track, the race itself is, what, 30 to 40% in Bedminster?
Approximately. Mhm.
We know that.
No, I
Hey,
did-
you know that, right, too?
I did reach out to the commissioner. The mayor asked me, was there any sort of a permit fee or other revenue generated by this approval for which Bedminster might get a portion? And I was told no.
Right, my recollection is that when this first came around with the parimutuel racing, or actually the on-site betting, that there would be some proceeds that would be distributed to the host municipalities. I think, John, we may have asked your office to look into that at one point. And we've had similar follow-up conversations with the Racing Commission, and again, we were told, no, there are no such commissions coming back to the municipalities. Well, anyone have special thoughts on approving the steeplechase for October 17, 2020? Okay, so let's treat this as a one-off. Motion to approve?
Moved.
Second?
Again, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next permit is social affair permit for the Midland School to be held at the Purnell School on November 24th, 2019. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, can we have a motion to approve?
So moved?
Second.
Again, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public comments, twice each night, we open up these microphones for public comment. Seeing none, monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair, and we will start with Mr. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no updates this session.
Mr. Hickey.
Mayor, thank you. Good evening, all. A couple quick updates. Rec, we did not have our meeting last Tuesday because we did not have quorum, so we'll look to reschedule that. Library, we had a meeting last Wednesday. Just an FYI, the library signed up 47 new card members in September. It was library card sign-up month. I did not know that, but apparently they had a good push, so.
The library, just going to say it, was active at the farmer's market in September.
That's right. So there you go. So it worked. We also continue to assess options for protecting the building and its patrons from mishaps, given the auto accident that occurred there earlier this year. One thing you'll probably see is some additional landscaping to help prevent incidents near the front door. So we'll be pursuing that. John Mance has also been very helpful in helping us think through what other options there may be for protection in the future. Board of Health, we had a meeting last Thursday. In addition to holding a flu shot clinic at the farmer's market, the county mentioned that we can also do a rabies clinic for pets. I know we do one in January most years, but this would be an additional one. And the county is looking to do these things because it helps them get in practice for emergency pandemic preparation, immunization, mobilization, that kind of stuff. So they're looking to these kind of these clinics to help get their own teams prepared.
And does the Board of Health is, they're all in favor of moving forward with doing the flu shots at the farmer's market for next year? And would the rabies clinic be there as well?
Rabies clinic could be there as well, exactly. That was the thought. So what we'll do is we'll start to line up that planning in April of next year, because that's when they determine the doses for the various vaccines, so that we can get them together and then plan for a date later in the year to have them at the farmer's market. And we'll work that obviously with the Board of Health.
Great.
All right, so that's work underway. And then I know IT, I have to work with Ms. Sullivan to get the next meeting on the schedule for that subcommittee, so we'll do that and hopefully have a readout at our next meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Borowski.
Thank you, Mayor. We don't have anything from EC. Solicitation permits, Stacy and I are still working with Joe Sordillo, and we'll have something for you guys soon to take a look at. JVH, we had a meeting last Wednesday, so final preparations are in place for Fall Fest. Come visit them at the table. They've got some colonial games and demonstrations going on. On Friday, November 29th, the JVH will have their tree lighting at 6:30, and following that is the Candlelight Museum Tour, 7:30 to 9:30. It'll be real fun if everybody shows up to those. And Colonial Christmas, don't forget, is December 7th and 8th. I know I sound lovely. But it's a real good cause, and it's a really great house. Everybody should go visit. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. I have just a few quick comments on subcommittee action. So Land Use Board, the Elite Properties application, which I think was scheduled for earlier this month, was adjourned, and I think they're going to reconvene in the first week in November. So that application will continue. October 9th, I was asked to participate in a ribbon cutting at Kiowa Kirin, which is a specialty pharmaceutical company that is located in Bedminster 1. That's the KRE building on the corner of 206 and I guess sort of off of Burnt Mills Road. It was an interesting event. They were in about 4,000 to 7,000 square feet, and they just took on 30,000 square feet. It took on 30,000 square feet, and it is truly a modern office. It had the fogging glass doors or glass walls, so you have a conference room that you can see people in, and then with the flip of a button, the glass fogs, and you can't see inside. So it's a really interesting dynamic, and once again, I think Colin and I have talked about this on reporting on land use, and certainly from the master plan, looking at the new buildings being built in Bedminster. Malincrot was an example as well, is that this is within the model of new offices. Everything is high-tech, everything is fluid. The idea of cubicles or offices and with windows is, you're seeing less and less than that, and more of, you have a laptop, conference, workstation, what do you call it, a war room or something else along those lines. So it was really great to see that building, not repurposed, but improved. I know from talking to the landlord that they were very pleased with the way the tenant space came out. The tenant was very happy. They brought in their CEO from Japan, and it's a Japanese company, and Colin looked it up for me, and sure enough did confirm that Kyowa Kirin, a pharmaceutical company, is related to Kirin Beer, which was the original and still is the parent company back in Japan. So it was very interesting. They brought a whole mess of folks out there. I think they had 4 continents that were represented at the ribbon cutting. And, I got a chance to ask folks how they like working, and some of them do live in Bedminster, and they love it. So they love the building, they love the facility, the area in which they worked. So it was a very nice event, and we thank Kyowa Kirin for staying in here, right here in Bedminster. Hope more of the pharmaceutical and high-tech businesses continue to call Bedminster home. And I think that's what I have for subcommittee reports. John, I do have a quick question. I think at the last meeting we talked about the Land Use Board approval for the Primrose School, and you had sent an email out to Tom Collins asking for any resolution or any indication that led to a developers agreement.
Yes.
I wonder if you had any
No, as a
thoughts.
matter of fact, he never replied.
Okay. Can you just follow up with Tom, please?
Okay.
Thank you. And Ms. Sullivan, we'll turn to you for the administrator's report.
Yes, sir. A few things. I reached out to everyone on the Township Committee just regarding the New Jersey League of Municipalities Convention coming up November 19th through the 21st. Options are, if you're going to stay, I do need to make some reservations. I have reservations, but I need to confirm them. If you're just going down for the day, which is also an option, a lot of people like to do that, you will need a pass to get into the convention center, which needs to be ordered ahead of time. You can get them on site, but the line is forever long. So, if you plan to go for the day, just let me know, and I'll make sure I get a pass for you. If you're staying over, I need to know, I can change the room requirements until the 8th, but I think I've heard from everyone that they're not staying, except for the mayor, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
I did get a call from Deborah Grundyke, who is the president of the Somerset Hills Municipal Alliance Committee. She contacted me last Friday, very concerned about the fact that Somerset County intends to cut the grant funding to this organization by 49%. So the programs that they currently help run, mostly at the high school, but they do programs in some of the middle school, the middle schools as well, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I know our DARE program does get some funding, and some other programs. they're very concerned about the cut in funding. So they are having a special meeting next week. They're trying to figure out what can they do to hopefully push the county to keep the funding in place. And they were wondering if there would be any support from the 4 mayors, from Bedminster, Far Hills, Peapack, Gladstone, and Bernardsville, which are the 4 towns that make up the group. So they're going to have their special meeting this week, come up with a plan of maybe what they're going to do, but they will look for elected officials to support whatever their request might be. So that is forthcoming.
Is there a writing or something else that that Deb received from the county?
In your package, let me see, I don't know.
Oh,
You
wait.
should have something under my report.
The funding.
There's an email
Right.
there.
But there was no explanation, it was just the funding formula?
We're cutting your funding from 21,534 to 10,978. Deal with it. And they're devastated, you know, because they plan, they meet here quarterly, here in our building, the group, and plan all kinds of programs and fund all kinds of programs. Like I said, mostly at the high school level, but some of the I think some of the money does go to the DARE program in each of the towns. And there's no reason, there's no explanation, so.
So Chief, does any of that money get used by the police department when we're running the DARE program? How does that work?
Yeah, whatever funding that Officer Cooper receives from the Municipal Alliance, she utilizes that for their supplies and like their prizes, and at the end of the year, like their party after graduation. I can't speak to how much we get every year, but it does provide a service to the DARE program.
Judy, who will be in attendance at the Municipal Alliance meeting?
So President Grundyke was going to be calling a special meeting. We have representatives that are appointed by Bedford Township. The other towns do as well. They all meet here. I believe the date was thrown out for the 28th. I can confirm that. I mean, if...
So at that meeting, we'll formalize a request to
Yeah, they
the
need to
governing...
prioritize what are their major needs, and their funding. What are they going to need to at least get by? I mean, they also have they hire a professional that helps with the planning and all the grant requesting and putting all the programs together, and all the paperwork that's required to help run the various programs, because they're all volunteers. So some of the money is spent on a professional, a part-time person to do some of the paperwork.
So with the consent of the committee, I think we'd like to ask Deb and the Alliance to put together, if they're so inclined,
Yeah.
a formal request to each of the municipalities that we
Yeah,
can
she
then
really
work
called me
together to
Friday
get back to the
She's
county.
like, what do I do? Can I, I'm looking for some support from elected officials. I need someone to just help me. And so they're going to have their special meeting, and I said, give me your priorities, and I can help reach out to the elected officials.
So, but the priorities are not necessarily on the expenditures, but right now the priority is getting additional funding from the county.
Yeah, there was no explanation as to why. So that's what they're trying to.
So do we have the support from the committee that Judy can give that direction to President Grundyke?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, she's scrambling. So I appreciate that. I'll get back to her. She was going to
Sure.
try and come tonight to speak personally, but she did have a conflict. She wasn't sure she could make it. So that being said, at our last meeting, we had. Oh, wait a minute. Before I go into that, don't forget, Stacy's not here. Fall Fest is Saturday. It's rain or shine. I don't like to use the R word. Chances right now the weather says maybe a little bit of rain in the morning, and then it's supposed to be nice. So. Right now I have 10 food trucks, 3 live music entertainers, 56 vendors, 4 snack providers like Pretzel Guy and Donut Guy, and we've got AT&T with all the TVs and the beer and wine tent and all the inflatables, so it's going to be a great day. So please, oh, and costume contest for pets, adults, and kids. So, and if any, and we're looking for an extra judge. If anybody would like to help with that, let me know. Okay. At the last meeting, we received some information from the CFO on two different topics that the mayor had reached out about. One being where we stand with our debt service, and we did pass that out and kind of asked everybody to take a look at it. I'm hoping you were able to. You should have a copy of it there in front of you. So you see what it is for 2019, what's in our budget this year for our debt service, $735,000. But you can see over the next, 2 years, it's going down about $250,000 a year into 2020 and 2021. We don't have any new purchases that we are planning per se. This would be any capital projects or things to add to our band. But it is also the suggestion of the CFO not to necessarily cut all that $250,000, but take it and put it into the capital program, not necessarily earmark it for anything in particular. Just put it in the capital surplus that will sit there and be available for a future purchase of that big item or big ticket something that we might.
The concern about the 2%, 2%.
Well, capital doesn't have 2% on it, but we always try and keep our budget at that level anyway. So if we cut it, we won't get it back. It'll be the next year we won't be able to raise $250,000. So if you wanted to, cancel some of it, but at least keep the bulk of it, put it in the capital plan. That's way it'll just sit there and be capital surplus to fund a future project. So, but you can see our debt is going down considerably.
So, the reason I asked Deb to put this together is that we had discussion about, we were redoing the ban, and I just wanted to get a snapshot of where we stand with our debt service here in 2019 with projections for 2021, and Deb did all the way to 2028 and 2029 when the existing debt is zero, based upon where we are today. Certainly we do know that there are some things coming down the road, right? So I think a lot of us have heard those asks from fire department. John may have some additional equipment possibly coming down the road. So we know that this is, this remains a fluid chart. However, I think it is interesting that we have been in the past very careful about pushing debt further than it needs, or than it should go. And we've been resistant. I think when you look at that bottom line and see going from 735 in 2019 down to 500 in 2020 to 210 in 2021, I think that speaks to the fiscal prudency that the Township Committee has exerted over the last 10 plus years. So it's certainly something that we'll take into consideration as we move into the budget cycle in February or January. But I wanted everyone to see that. And then on the other side is the second issue that I asked Deb to provide us with some information on, which is there was an article, I think I circulated the article, if I can find it.
Should be in there too.
Oh, it's in there as well.
Last time regarding pensions.
Oh, here it is. Right, so pension payments, this was good news for local governments, overshadowed by latest state data. So what Deb did is Deb ran our the amount that we've been putting towards pension, and she did it as both a lump sum on an appropriation basis, but then also a percentage of budget. And I asked her to project out for the next 5 years, just so we can see where things are going with the amount that we spend on pension and we have two different pension accounts. Judy, you can just quickly describe the two different
Well,
pensions.
the first column that you see is PERS is the Public Employees Retirement System, which is for everybody but police, okay? And then the second column is PFRS, which is Police Fire Retirement System. So you can see, you know, the difference in the cost going forward. And these are just projections, okay? They're not solid numbers. And what we're paying, for example, in 2019 is based on the employees that were in the system 2 years ago. We're 2 years behind in what we're billed to pay. The other conversation, so Mr. Hickey and myself and I don't know who else was on, we were on a conference call with representatives from the state treasury a little over a week ago regarding the fact that the monies in the pension system have been invested very well, and the revenues have increased at a very good rate. And therefore, when you hear about the shortfalls that are in the pension system, the percentage of contribution has now decreased because their interest and revenue has increased more than they originally expected. You also hear the pension funds are not fully funded. Please keep in mind that's the state side. So the local government for police, fire, and the regular public employees, the municipalities all pay their portion, and the employees all pay their portion, and they all go into a big fund at the state level. The state has not been funding their portion, so the local government and local employees have been funding that shortfall with our contributions, and then the interest that we make on that has been funding the shortfall on the state side. You know, is it fair? No. And the state's just trying to determine what's the best way to fill that gap. But we had this great phone call telling us what a great job we're doing. Well, it's a great job that they're doing with the local municipalities' money and investing it to fill the shortfall.
So there's an interesting line in the article, which is, stronger investment gains generate more revenue for the pension funds, easing how much must come in from the employer contributions. So when, and I presume this is how it works, that when the investments do well, and in this economy that we're in right now, the investments should be returning very positively, that puts less pressure on the towns for their contribution.
Right.
So it's not that the state investment only applies to the state portion, but it also applies to the municipal portion as well.
Right.
So when there's the good economy, the pension funds are getting more money from their investments, then there's less pressure on the municipality and the state contributions. However, when we look at the projections that Deb did provide, looking at essentially 2019, we're anticipating that our pension contribution is about 6.49, just go to 6.5% of our total budget. But in a few years, we can see that number going north of 7.5%. So that a greater percentage of the budget will be dedicated to pension payments, not just for existing employees, but even for those employees who have since retired from service in the municipality. Just something I thought was interesting, and I think that, once again, as we get into budgeting for 2020, I just want everyone to be mindful of these numbers. And once again, we act certainly in the short term, but we keep an eye down the road to these ensuing years and the impact it will have on the municipality and to our resident taxpayers. So Judy, thank you, and thank you, Deb, for putting this all together for us.
Yeah, she worked very hard on this, but...
No, this is very important stuff. And we'll ask Deb to, when she put these charts together, to tell us just what her assumptions were. And so she was assuming 2% increases in budgets, Judy, what were the other assumptions that she built
Well,
into?
she took a snapshot in time of the employees we have today. Okay, with no changes being estimated, as far as retirements or new hires or anything of that nature. She just took the people we have today and then moved them along, assuming a 2% increase every year, what their salaries would be, and then assuming that our rates would continue to change, based on just history. What the state's saying is based on investments, those percentages of contribution may go down, which would be great. But she estimated, they're going to continue to increase as they have. So it's just
But it is mindful that a change of the investment returns would negatively affect the contribution that the township makes. So a poor economy will have impact on our budget, basically through the pension contributions.
That's
So just bear that in mind, that our municipal budget is not immune from what happens down in Washington and on Wall Street.
Judy, the 2020 numbers here, those are the actuals we just got back from the state in terms of the bill that we expect, or is it?
no, wait a minute, the 2020 numbers,
Because I know we were waiting on the state and they were talking about a 1% roughly increase.
so the 2020 projections that you see, those are based on what we just heard.
Okay,
Okay, so you can see that that reflection shows, that they've gone down.
so that's locked now.
Yes,
Okay.
that bill we already have.
We got that, good, all right. At least we got that locked and loaded.
And there's, chance that future years will be reflected the same, like the
Right.
same impact if investments continue to do well.
Right, to the mayor's point, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on the administrator's report?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Discussion on introduced ordinances, we have none. Introduction of ordinances, we have none. Public hearing of ordinances, we have none. Consent agenda, we have one item on the consent agenda. Does anyone have a request to pull that matter off the consent agenda? If not, may we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved?
Second?
This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Mr. Morensky?
Aye.
Mayor Taylor?
Aye.
Thanks.
All right. So this might be, hopefully, is the highlight of the night. Several months ago, I received an email from Christopher Kip Forbes, asking me whether on behalf of the township would have any interest in accepting a donation from the Forbes family in the form of the original 1749 charter.
Nice.
We did an informal poll, reached out to some of the committee members to make sure that the answer was yes. And I responded back to Mr. Forbes with much appreciation. And we turned it over to Mr. Bellardo's office to work out the details of the donation agreement and the deed of gift. And after several months of back and forth, we are prepared to approve a resolution accepting the donation of the 1749 charter. And there's a couple things usually we don't do this, but I will read the resolution, or certainly some of the whereases, into the record. So this is Bedminster Township Resolution number 2019-108. Whereas the Forbes family wishes to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Malcolm S. Forbes's birth by presenting the original Bedminster Township Charter to the Township of Bedminster, where Mr. Forbes raised his family. And whereas the Bedminster Township Charter was issued on April 4, 1749 by Jonathan Belcher, the Royal Governor of the Province of New Jersey, on behalf of George II, and established Bedminster, and we're going to get into some old language here, to be and remain a perpetual township and community in word and in deed, to be called and known by the name of the Township of Bedminster. And we further grant to the said inhabitants of the Township aforesaid and their successors to choose annually a constable overseers of the poor and overseers of the highways for the Township aforesaid, and to enjoy all the rights, liberties, and immunities that any other township in our said province do or may right enjoy, and the said inhabitants are hereby constituted and appointed a township by the name aforesaid, to have and hold and enjoy the privileges aforesaid to them and their successors forever. So we are accepting through this resolution, if we approve it, the April 4, 1749 charter and accompanying display cabinet that was made by the Forbes family to house the charter. So that cabinet will be gifted to the municipality, and the resolution says, whereas the Township Committee finds it's in the best interest of the township to accept the donation from SBKTM Holdings, Inc., which is on behalf of the Forbes family, and that we will accept the Bedminster Township Charter for use by the township and enjoyment of the public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Bedminster, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, that the township hereby accepts the donation of the April 4, 1749 Bedminster Township Charter as a gift of the Forbes family in honor of Malcolm S. Forbes. Be it further resolved that the mayor, township clerk, or other appropriate township officials are hereby authorized to sign the deed of gift. Be it further resolved that the Township of Bedminster hereby expresses its appreciation and gratitude to the Forbes family for its generous contribution to the township and for continuing to make Bedminster their home. Any questions or comments regarding the resolution?
Where are we going to keep it?
That's my question.
So if we approve the resolution, I would propose that send a discussion point back to the Historic Preservation Committee, and let the Historic Preservation Committee make some recommendations. And this may be something that if we had a resident woodworker who was somehow around here, might have some ideas of where to host this cabinet and place it within the township facilities. So, yeah, Colin, I believe you are the liaison. Wait, no, Doug, you are the liaison to Historic Pres.
Yes, Mayor.
So, Doug, you are the liaison to the Historic Pres, and whenever you have your next meeting, I suggest this resolution gets approved. Take the resolution back to Historic Pres and start thinking of ideas of where we can house the charter and the cabinet in these facilities.
Okay, sounds good. It's exciting.
So any questions or comments?
Do we know when they're going to actually make the donation?
No, I think it's up to you to contact them and
Okay.
arrange for it directly.
Yeah, and
Because my only other question would be, do we need to have any kind of special insurance policy for such an artifact? Which it's an artifact.
that you can raise with the Jeff.
Yeah.
But I think we already have other valuables
Yeah,
in possession.
That's just a question.
So,
Can we get some dimensions of what's coming, some kind of an idea what this is going to look like, so we can get some ideas?
I'd send a photo. I don't have dimensions.
Yeah, I saw the photo and now I can't find the photo.
I
Do
can.
you
I'll,
still have it?
yeah, I'll resend it to you.
Put it in electric or anything to keep the sides environmentally stable?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it is. They probably
That's
used the museum quality backing, and it's probably sealed up, I would imagine.
Okay.
But we'll find out. And the deed of gift will be essentially worked out between your office
I know
and
Joe was working on it. I think there's already a form agreed to.
There's a form agreed to, but now it would just be the execution by the parties on that.
Yeah.
Now, back many, many, many years ago, Committeeman Norm Lapidus and then Mayor Don Cross approached, talked about this, that the Bedminster Charter was lost, and it was discovered, owned by a historian in Somerville, and then Mr. Forbes purchased it, and it was here housed in the Forbes building here in Bedminster for a period of time. That building caught fire, and it was one of the items saved by the fire company. I remember John was part of all that. And then it was after that that they moved it to New York City, the facilities there. But I know, Bedminster reached out long ago, and at that time, the Forbes family wanted to, keep it on display at their building in New York. So, now it's coming home again.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
And once again, we thank you to Christopher Forbes, Steve Forbes, and the Forbes family for this generous donation. And once again, it is in honor of their father's 100th birthday, who he passed a number of years ago, but as Mr. Forbes, Christopher Forbes, indicated that he was always proud to call Bedminster his home, and for the two sons, they too are proud to call Bedminster their home. So once again, we thank you, and we will work with them on the, essentially the delivery of the,
Already sent an email out, right,
delivery of the gift.
to get that going.
Would this call for some kind of presentation, invite the public kind of thing?
Possibly, in the emails I expressed, or I sent to the Forbes family is, we would defer to them on if they wanted this to be a big presentation
Okay.
or not. I think we'd give them the opportunity to weigh in how they'd like it presented. So we'll wait to hear, and hopefully within a few weeks, we've got something to consider. But certainly in the meantime, I think the first cut at recommendations should be with Historic Pres, with some guidelines. Okay, the next resolution is Resolution 2019-109. This is the resolution that Ms. Moreski already fixed the county's typo. And this resolution authorizes the adoption of the updated multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan for Somerset County. Judy, you want to give us some more detail?
This is, you might want to call it a shared service agreement of sorts that allows all the towns in Somerset County to assist each other when there's any kind of big natural disaster of some sorts, where we pool our resources together and assist each other as needed. We've seen things like this when there's a bad fire down in Hillsborough and some of their storage facilities, and pretty much everybody across the county was down there at some point helping, fight that fire and help Hillsborough. So, anything that might happen in any of our towns, this allows all the towns to share their resources, cross town lines, and do whatever needs to be done. In a nutshell.
Sure.
Chief, anything to add to that?
No, from a local perspective, it was, obviously every municipality has to participate in this, and it assists with FEMA funding in case there is some sort of natural disaster, and they're giving out grant money to, help the situation and get us back on our feet. And, if you identify hazards, it's up to the committee to see if natural disasters, what strategies you can throw at it. So say you have a low-lying area that continually floods, well, you want to seek money to raise these homes and stuff like that. So, relook at this, I think, started in 2017, and they have to do it every 5 years.
Any further questions or comments? We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number 2019-110. This resolution appoints a municipal prosecutor for the Shared Court for the period of November 1, 2019 through December 31, 2019. So this is a 2-month appointment for municipal prosecutor. You may recall that only a few
1 month.
weeks ago, we approved another resolution appointing a municipal prosecutor. The municipal prosecutor we had appointed last time is a solo attorney, and essentially found that the workload of the combined court was too much for his practice. Tendered his resignation. I've had subsequent telephone conversations and a meeting with the prosecutor to stay on a little bit longer and to find a little more detail if there's any way that we could keep him going. He was resolute in his position of resigning, and so discussions with the other towns participating in the shared court, rather than go back to a bidding process, which we had just gone through a few months previously, went back and took a look at the number 2, who was still willing to do the job, and was still the second chiefest and probably the most qualified for the prosecutor position. And the resolution you have before you is to appoint Stephen Davis from the DeFrancesco Law Firm as the municipal prosecutor for the Bedminster Township and for the Peapack, Gladstone, and Burnsville Shared Municipal Court. Any questions or comments regarding the resolution? Now, a motion to approve.
Make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Abstain.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Mareski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Third resolution we have for tonight, other than consent agenda, is Resolution 2019-111. This resolution authorizes the municipal clerk to certify the Township Committee has reviewed the completed best practices inventory at a public meeting.
This is an annual thing that we do. Best practices inventory is something provided by the state DCA that has, I believe there are 54 questions in the best practices inventory. However, not all of them are scored. Some of them are just questions for a survey. A perfect score of those questions that have points is, I believe, 45. You need to have at least 30 points to receive your full state funding, and Bedminster's number score is 42.5. We did have to take a couple of no's, and I can briefly tell you what they are. One would be that we have a formal written policy regarding the use of municipal surplus or fund balance, how much we want to keep and what we're going to do with it. We talk about it every year in our budget practice, but we don't have a written policy of what we want that to be or how we're going to use it, so I had to take a note. Another question, do we have any repeat comments in our audit? And we have the same comment that we've had every year for multiple years. So we're not changing it. So it is what it is. I have to say most of the small towns have to take a no on this question. Also, Do your municipality's professional services contracts include a not-to-exceed amount? Many of our contracts do, however, a few of our contracts do not. So therefore, I had to take a no. So most, but not all. So we took a no on that question. And the last one, does your municipality actively maintain an inventory of buildings and vacant properties that would benefit from redevelopment? And we do not currently maintain such a list. So we took a no on that question. So with that, we ended up with 42.5 points, which is way above what's required to keep our funding. You all have a copy of our answers if you have anything else, but we did very well. So this has to be submitted by Friday. It has to be signed off by myself that I presented it to you, and by the CFO that she reviewed all the answers as well, and we have to certify those answers to the state. So we hope to send this in tomorrow.
Any further questions or comments for Ms. Sullivan? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve Resolution 2019-111.
So moved.
I'll second.
And roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. May we have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
So moved.
Second.
And roll call vote again, Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Dickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Mayor Jacobs?
Aye. Discussion item. Are there any items that the Township Committee members want to put up for discussion? Seeing none, we will move to new business, the Betty Merck dinner. So where we left off on the Betty Merck dinner for reorganization was after looking around and discussing this earlier than we usually do to see if we could line up facilities. We ended up with two Bedminster facilities, Fiddler's Elbow Country Club and Trump National Golf Club, that would be available for us to hold the reorganization meeting, which must take place within the first week of 2020. As we have discussed in the past, the intent was always to move the reorganization dinner around to showcase different Bedminster facilities. Traditionally, the event was held at Willie's Tavern, but as Delicious Heights, they're not really set up to accommodate the crowd that we get. We've had the event at Trump. We've had the event at the Pottersville Fire Department, which required some off-catering effort by township folks, and also put us into a bit of a hazard with mud and ice at that facility. This year, Fiddler's Elbow, which has, once again, there's something I want to point out, is that all the golf courses, so Hamilton, Fiddlers, and Trump, are closed that first week. They've just gone through the holiday season. They need a week to clean up the facilities. Their folks take off that week. Trump has stayed open really specifically to accommodate the municipality. This year, Fiddler's Elbow has gone through some improvements to their facilities, to the banquet facilities in their kitchen, and by reaching out to them early, they said that they would be available to accommodate us during that first week. So I want to put two questions out there. So the first question is, between Fiddlers and Trump, where does the Township Committee want to go this year, or for 2020? So let me put out there the opportunity to showcase another facility, especially one that just went through some improvements, and like Trump, Fiddlers has been a good venue. They've been good to our charitable organizations. So I would say we have an opportunity to move it around. Let's do so, but let's hear what the committee has to say.
I would agree and echo those comments. I think we talked about originally having it be sort of a rotation to celebrate all of our great venues. For me, always, it really comes down to cost. I'm looking at some of the costs here. Doesn't seem to be too big of a stretch in terms of the difference, so I would tend to agree, Mayor. I think we would maybe give them a shot and see what it's like.
Okay. Mr. Higbee?
Mayor, I feel the same. I think it's an opportunity to showcase another venue within Bedminster as long as there's no cost to the town. We don't assume any additional complexity in terms of managing the event, and there's no additional liability.
I feel the same way. Fiddler's Elbow is a gorgeous place, and it'd be nice to see the new place and change it up a little bit.
Okay, great. So that's question one. So question two is, apparently Fiddler's Elbow has a different liquor license than Trump has. I don't really understand the nuances of alcohol licensing, but apparently there's a different one, where in the past where Trump could accommodate a cash bar for folks who wanted to have a beverage, adult beverage, they could do so and handle it straight as a cash bar through the Trump organization or through the golf course itself. Fiddler's Elbow is different. Fiddler's Elbow says we can do two things. We can have just the food, right, which comes at the same price as the food would have been at the Trump course, or we could provide beer and wine, and they would provide a bartender, or we could provide our own bartender at that event. I did ask Ms. Sullivan to explore whether or not the event could be run as a BYO, bring your own. And the answer came back, yes. So what Judy put together was three options. And let's see, Judy, you just want to quickly describe them?
The option that you have on the sheet of paper is not the BYO option. This would be, because they have a club license, they're only allowed to serve members. Okay. And no cash really goes across the bar. The members, receive it as part of their membership. So when they have a large event or a wedding or anything else, the person having the event needs to get a social fare permit and then coordinate actually bringing in alcohol from the outside. They do coordinate with a local liquor store who will provide that alcohol, whatever is requested, on a consignment basis. And you also have to, provide for a bartender, which they have staff that will do that, but we have to pay for that. So you can see what the cost would be in order to facilitate that type of a setup. We did an idea where people, when they actually put in their reservation for the dinner, they could put in, hey, I just want dinner. Or someone could put in, hey, I'd like dinner, but I'd like to get, a wine or a beer, and then we would just add a little bit to their ticket price. Or maybe someone would say, hey, I really don't want dinner, but I'd like to come and still be at the meeting, and maybe I'm going to have a glass of wine in the bar area while I'm at the meeting. So we could offer that option as well. But all the the orders would have to be done, people have to submit ahead of time, pay for them, and then when they come in, there would be an envelope with their name on it with tickets inside based on what the order was.
So you couldn't make that decision at the door?
No. So it would have to be done ahead of time. So people are coming in the door, just coming to the meeting, and they decide, oh, gee, I'm going to have a beer, that we wouldn't be able to do that.
I will I'll express my opinion on this, is that I think the township should be as far removed as possible in the purchasing and providing beer or wine or anything else. And my recommendation would be to treat this as a bring your own. And someone wants to come, they can bring their own, whatever that beverage is. Someone doesn't want to bring anything, they don't have to bring anything. And that would stick with the dinner and leave it to individuals as to what they want to do.
Speaking with the event planner, they haven't ever done this before, although she did say they would certainly allow it. But that brings about other questions more on a management side for them. This table needs wine glasses, that table needs an ice bucket. They just have to provide additional service. in order to just make sure everyone, people are bringing in their bag of ice with them or whatever, I don't know. But,
Well, presumably, if you're not having alcohol, you're having a glass of water, you want ice with your water, right? And every table should get a bucket of ice.
exactly, but they said that we'll have to think about it a little bit and make sure so we can accommodate what everybody's needs might be. So they have to figure that out. But they were open to the idea and they said they would certainly allow it.
So let's nail this down tonight. We pick a location, Township Committee, what do you want to do for the dinner and for
It's a Thursday and a Friday with Fiddler's Elbow.
Thursday and a Friday for the reorg Betty Merck dinner?
You want to vote on that first?
Put it all together. What do you think, Colin?
Thursday, I don't care about the date, but I come back to what I said before, which is, taking on the exposure of incremental costs, complexity of trying to manage an event where now, Judy and others on our staff are suddenly becoming event planners, and the liability associated with the purchase of alcohol. I'd much rather mayors do as you said, which is do it at Fiddler's, but do it BYOB, and everybody's on their own. No cost exposure for the town. There's no more complexity. Everybody show up with what they want to drink that night and be done with it.
It happened on a Friday. I'm just, no rhyme or reason, but it's a better night for people that want to stay out and have a nice night out with friends, family. Do it on a Friday. I think it's a better night.
I'm good with that.
You be around?
I don't get a vote.
Well, you're going to be around on that Friday?
So I'm a member, I guess I can just go to the bar.
You can go to the bar.
John's buying. That's what we got.
Drinks on Attorney Below.
I don't actually know if it'll be
that.
open, so I'm not sure I can do that. You'll probably be the
And
only
I'll be
event
the
there.
ones there.
Gee, do you have ideas of Thursday or Friday?
My only comment, I did receive notification from the school. Normally we have a joint meeting with them. The superintendent and board president are not available on the 2nd or 3rd, which are the two dates offered by Trump and Fiddler's. They were looking for a meeting on either the 6th, Monday the 6th, or Tuesday the 7th. When I gave them our dates, they said they would respectfully and gracefully decline and decided to have their own meeting. So they will not be joining us.
So you were on the Friday?
I'm good on the Friday, BYOB.
Okay. And BYOB or build it into the...
No, I'm fine with the BYOB.
The $20 is a big step up. If you want to have a glass of wine, I think people would prefer to bring it. If it's not $20 rolled into their 40.
Okay. It's October, and we've made a decision. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, I will reach out to them and go from there.
And thank you, Judy, for doing this, and
So we're going with the 3rd.
we're going with the 3rd, that Friday. Old business. Amendment to the solicitation ordinance. Mr. Stevenson. No, that's not Mr. Stevenson. I'm sorry.
I spoke with Mr. Sardillo, and he said he's waiting on the subcommittee to get back to him.
And I did get a text from Stacy. I think she's not here. Well, she's not here yet. Vacant property zombie house maintenance.
Did he?
Mr.
He
Stevenson.
sent something this evening.
So I'm continuing to work with council on that. Nothing yet to present to the committee. We're working through a couple issues that we can get through it and get a draft to you guys.
Yeah,
We're still
spoken
working
with Mr. Stevenson on that, and so we're kicking around some things, and I'm waiting to final advice on a draft, so.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Short-term rentals. Judy, do you have any update from the zoning official?
There's nothing late to report. Been rather quiet.
And Doug, do you have any further updates on Airbnb or any other ordinances? John, have you seen anything? Engine braking, I think we'll revisit engine braking probably in November or December. Pluckman Park. So, John, I believe you do have an update on Pluckin Park?
I do. The prosecutor, Mr. Porfido, did stay on to conclude that case with Ken Rogers, our construction official, and pleas of guilty were entered by Pluckin Park. There is a schedule for them paying fines on the 13 offenses alleged, and Mr. Rogers has indicated that with respect to those 13 offenses, they've been remedied by Pluckin Park. So, the case is over.
So the matters that were the subject of the court action have been resolved.
That's what Mr. Rogers said.
Are there any continuing violations or new violations that have been asserted against them?
The most recent issue, there was a tree that Mr. Stevenson had identified, and it really wasn't a violation, that was more of just of a notification.
And a railing. And the railing. There were two.
And when they went down to check out the tree, they noticed there was a railing that was still needed to be repaired, and that was also done. So we are up to date as best I know.
And Doug, the last time you went through there, any comments on the condition?
No comments on the condition. One of the residents there indicated that the super, who had typically been there on site, was moved off by home base, which, you know, was not making folks happy because obviously the super there, boots on the ground, you know, changing out the light bulbs, right, lickety-split. So they were sort of complimentary of the super and indicating he was doing good work for them, and they were upset that he wasn't there. So it's something to keep an eye on. But as far as the, you know, the sinkhole and everything's been remediated, and the gutter that we saw was put back up, and all that stuff was fixed. I mean, obviously you could use some paint, and they're starting to paint through it a little bit. So there's some more work to do, and I hope that that gets done. But as far as violations goes, I think we're in decent shape.
Okay. I would say that I am leery of removing Pluckin Park from old business, and I would propose to keep it there for a few more months and to make sure that it stays in a compliant condition, and that may involve you know, routine inspections to make sure that everything remains satisfactory to the zoning and construction official. JCP&L outages, Mr. Hickey.
Well, Mayor may have the latest update based on the fact that we did have a brief outage last night of about 10 to 15 minutes, and my understanding, in speaking with Ms. Bianchi from JCP&L, is that they were able to restore our service quickly because we have breakers that can be reclosed remotely. So that's kind of what saved our bacon last night. But I think the combination of the fact that, you know, they've made investments in vegetation management in this area, they've installed reclosers and trip savers and other infrastructure within the area helps, creating circuit redundancy of the like that we saw at the 287 entrance ramp helps. All these things together contribute to, I think, a better service level. And obviously, given the fact that the Township Committee, the public, and the Hills Working Group have been working closely together with JCP&L to kind of help affect these changes, I think we're starting to see some of the results. May not be direct, but it is a combination of all these things that are happening. So I think that's why we saw some better performance last night in a brief outage. And Mayor, I don't know if you want to add anything.
So I did text our JCP&L rep as soon as we went out of power, as well as I went on the website and just because I've been listening to Judy and I've been listening to our JCP&L rep, that when you're out of power, don't assume that they know. So go on and register and either call or text them. And since, you know, not just going on the website, but also talking directly to our rep, letting them know there was, I think I have it down as 8:58 that we lost power. And then some communication, not just with the one JCP&L rep, but two JCP&L reps during that time. And it was interesting that here in Bedminster, as far as I know, certainly I spoke to Judy and to Mr. Hickey last night, that the outage here was about 15 minutes, right? However, in some of the surrounding towns, they were out for a much more extended period. Some of the questions I posed to JCP&L was, well, is there a reason that we came back online so quickly. And then the other question I wanted to pose was whether the outage was tree-related or related to other circumstances. And so here's an email, let me just read. It has been confirmed that the outage last night was caused by a tree falling on a transmission line. My review of outages occurring during the recent high winds in Bedminster were also mostly tree-related. And then, as you know, JCP&L is implementing road liability measures in Bedminster to include the improvements we had discussed with the replacement of equipments, the repair on the Route 287 corridor, the installation of trip savers, and, as Colin mentioned, enhanced vegetative management. So to some extent, the repairs and coming back online are associated with some of the improvements that we convened JCP&L here. We've seen those improvements. They've coordinated with the community representatives. And one of the things I do want to emphasize, and certainly we've heard this from the JCP&L reps themselves, is tree trimming. And once again, we urge all property owners and residents and anyone else to please cooperate with JCP&L on tree trimming, because the power you save may be your own. So if you have trees that are that look like they're in danger, contact JCP&L and see if they can't bring their foresters out and give an assessment. There's another email I got was let me just pull this up real quickly.
And Mayor, as you're looking, just to clarify, that tree that was down last night, that took a transmission line down, was not local. I think it was
It's far away.
pretty far away, because I think the outage extended into Morris County.
It extended into Bernards and Bernardsville, because I think we went out, particularly in my neighborhood, around the time. I have a full generator, so I was out all of 3 seconds, but I think, at least in our neighborhood, it probably extended until past midnight.
Right. And I think there were over 8,000 customers in
It was,
Somerset
it
and Morris
was
County.
very
Yeah,
extensive.
widespread, but it was, tree took out a transmission line someplace remote, and we all were impacted.
Right, right. And I think, I'm still not sure why we came up sooner than the other towns, but I think it does have to do with those trips that they
They basically, the breakers opened, but then the station, the remote station, can close them if there's no fault condition. And they were able to do that because we have the equipment installed down here to do that.
down here.
Correct.
So in other municipalities that didn't have that,
Correct.
we were able to come back online.
Correct.
And so the other information that was provided to me just maybe a couple hours ago, just an indication that here in Bedminster we have 4 substations, 8 circuits, 2,203 utility poles, and 67 miles of distribution lines. So that's a lot of opportunity for tree damage with those number of poles and 67 miles of distribution. So to the extent, once again, all it takes is one tree, one pole, or one set of wires, that can take down a whole lot of folks. So once again, we urge everyone to be vigilant and to contact JCP&L when they observe a problem. With that, second opportunity for public comments.
One day Jake is going to come up to that microphone. One day.
One day.
Jake never comes up to the microphone.
Township Committee comments. Mr. Stevenson.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to chime in about the hunt. Chief, to your cohorts across the board in the county level, I thought you did a great job. Streamlined, no real incidents there that I was aware of. It was great to be out there, great weather. It was neat to hear folks coming in from out of the area, sort of taking it all in and saying, what a beautiful place this is out here, and how great it must be to live out here. And it was nice to hear. So we had a nice time. My apologies to the horse to get euthanized. I did put money on that horse, so that's probably attributable to me. That's my rotten luck, but it was a great event. It was a shame that had to happen, obviously, but it's part of the competition. But it was a great event, and again, the law enforcement that was there really had a lid on everybody, but also gave people their leash to go have fun, so it was nice.
Mr. Hickey.
Just to echo Committeeman Stevenson's comments, I want to thank the chief. I shared with him a story before the meeting of a young lady who basically was lost and disoriented, and his team stepped up to provide assistance, and it was just terrific. And I think really it was a very well-managed event, and thank you.
Ms. Boraski.
And looking forward this Saturday for Fall Fest and our farmer's market, who's going to be there as well. So people can come in and go to the farmer's market, visit Fall Fest, and have a really great day. The weather should be pretty decent.
Great. Chief, can you come up for a second? In for the camera.
This is the badge.
Tuck that in.
You look perfect.
You can tighten the belt. We're not here for the belt. But if you explain and face the camera, and if you could just please explain the badge.
The pink badge.
The badge.
So, one of my officers, Officer Beltry, came up with this idea last year, but it was too close to the month of October, which is the big push for the cure for breast cancer. So this year, he got behind it, came to me, put it out to all the officers. They, in fact, bought the badge on their own. And, for the month of October, we will wear the pink badges, and going forward, we'll do it every October. So, it's
Very
really
nice.
neat.
That's awesome.
And, a portion of the proceeds from the purchase of the badge went to cancer research.
Great.
So,
Excellent.
Chief,
Pink looks good on you.
thank you, Chief. Thank you for that explanation also. And
Nice.
please extend the Township Committee's appreciation to Officer Veltri for putting this program together. We do have an executive session. I've received some additional text from Ms. Santucci, and if she is not here in time, we can certainly call her in because there's some news that she wanted to weigh in on. We will not be taking any action following the executive session. It is 8:24. May we have a motion to...
Can I sneak in one little thing?
Yes.
Just wanted to say thank you to Colin for updating the township's website. He got everybody's bio and took Steve Parker, I believe, off as mayor and has now Larry on it. So, thank you.
10 months later.
Yeah, thank you so much to Colin for doing that work.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you, Colin. We have a motion to move to executive session.
So moved.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we will go to executive session and we'll come back.
Where are the brownies? Where are the brownies? You brought brownies.
Have a good night.
Where are the brownie bites?
They gonna charge a corkage fee at Fiddler's?
What's that?
Corkage fee at Fiddler's for opening bottles of wine.
No, they didn't put it out
Not if you
there.
bring a can opener.
We'll bring extra.
By the way, Fireball,
Corkers.
I always had
Fireball,
As a screw.
Fireball's a twist.
Twist off.
Fireball's a twist, so I don't know what you're talking about.
The wines now do have it, they're good wine, but they're still
Hey, do you
good.
think that this year the employees will like my gifts this year? Somebody will pick it, Judy?
Are we back on
My
that?
Fireball gift went unselected last year?
Did it go unselected?
Unselected.
No. Someone
Yeah,
got
because I
it?
did the like grab bag thing,
Yeah.
unselected,
Well,
last
no one
one, and I
knew
got all
what was in the
crazy.
bag.
And I can't believe no one picked my bag, my gift. And then when I showed them what was in it, everybody went crazy and wanted it. I said, no, you don't get it now.
I'm taking my ball and going home.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my Fireball and go home.
Tell me we're on.
We're on.
It is 9:45 and we've returned from executive session. There is no further action the Township Committee will be taking following the executive session. If there are no further comments, may we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Can you bang that thing?
You didn't recognize Stacy made it here for the end?
Oh, yeah.
They'll see.